We can get rolling. Madam Mayor, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Hold on one second. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Today we have Dr. Jeremy Smith and Dr. Fry to give us an update on the COVID risk meter. I think we've got some positive news. Unfortunately, I got some concerning news this morning. That is our chaplain with the Reno Fire Department, Steve Arvin. I don't know if any of you know him, but he is a wonderful man. He's out there consoling so many families through COVID. He's been with us for many years at the Reno Fire Department, but he has been hospitalized with COVID at St. Mary's, and we just want to send our prayers. I'm very concerned about him. He's a wonderful, wonderful man. And I think it speaks to the fact that we have to remain diligent because I know that he's in for a tough road. So our prayers go out to him and his family. It just broke my heart to hear that news. So again, I think this is another reminder that even though I think we've got some positive news with the COVID risk meter today, we cannot let our guard down. We can't. So again, I want to express my sympathy to his family and just let them know that we are very concerned. So hearing that was really tough news this morning. So with that being said, I am going to send it right over to Jeremy Smith. Many of you are familiar with him to give us an update on where we're at with our data for the COVID risk meter. Jeremy, go ahead, take it away. Oh, I think you're mute. Jeremy.
Uh-oh, showing up as unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, there we go.
Okay, sorry. There was a button. Okay, I'm going to share the screen here. Thank you for the introduction, Mayor Sheedy. All right, are you guys seeing a slide over here that says COVID risk meter? Great. All right. Well, I think what you can, number one, covidriskmeter.org is the place to go to find this information and to check out the data. We've actually made some improvements to the site over the past couple weeks, including about 75 to 80% of the site, maybe more, is now translated into Spanish. So you can kind of hover down at the bottom of the site and get a Spanish representation of this information. We have a little more work to do on that front, but at least now most of the words are there in Spanish. What you'll notice is that we're still in the very high settings. So we're still in that red setting, but what's really neat is that we have ticked down to the first tick. So rather than being up against the purple side, now we're kind of moving in a better direction towards the orange side. And, you know, I'll go through some of the data reasons for that. But just to echo what the mayor started with, this doesn't mean we're out of the woods. We should smile and be happy and feel positive that we're heading in this direction, but we still need to stay super diligent because we're still in this very high setting and the guidelines are still the same, whether you're in the first tick or the second tick. We really still have huge case proliferation. I mean, the numbers are still really high, but they're moving in the right direction. So let's take a look at that. So the first indicator is risk assessments. That's the number of tests that are being scheduled at the Washington County Health District. And I think you can see a pretty clear trend down. And then in the past week or so, pretty much a flattening of the 14-day average, which is the value we use. So good stabilization. And this has actually come down to scoring a 2 in our model instead of a 3. Our threshold for the 3 is a 400. So this is actually performing much better now. Test positivity, we're still generating 3 points. It's still well above our threshold of 12%, but it has to some degree flattened around 18.5. Although in the past couple of days, it's started to turn up. So be watching that one closely. Likewise with cases, you can see we had the biggest spike of new cases daily back in November, right around Thanksgiving. As of late, it's been pretty flat at around 50 new cases a day per 100,000 people. We really want to see that number start to get below 25 to get down and start really bringing our model down. But at least we're seeing that flattening, which is really good. This is what really I think has been helping our meter score and helping give our hospital staff a bit of a break after the big surge that happened around Christmas. You know, this blue line is a 7-day average of COVID hospitalizations, and the dashed line is the raw data. And I think you can see that from its peak right around Christmas, it's been steadily decreasing. We had about 438 people in the North hospitals on the 22nd of December, I think, down now to, in this data, 211 yesterday. Today it's back to, I think, 240. So we're certainly quite a bit lower than we were, which is great. Similar signal in the ICU bed use. So both those things have been going down, and that's great. Then total hospital capacity, kind of usage of beds. The blue line is the overall inpatient count, kind of holding pretty steady above 80% usage, but ICU bed use has continued to decline, which is very good as well. So hopefully these trends continue. And when you put all that together into our model, you can see that we've come down and we've actually kind of peaked into this orange band. And so back before Halloween, we were in the orange, and then we went up almost to the purple, and we were up and down in that higher red zone throughout December, throughout the holidays. And now we've been coming down, and it looks like our prediction for next week, actually based on this data, is showing that our next week's setting may be in the orange. So we're very hopeful for that. But again, you know, we haven't fully necessarily seen all of the effects of the holidays and the gatherings. So we're just going to keep watching it close, but tentatively positive with this directionality. Thank you.
All right. Great job, Jeremy. As always, you just impress me every single time. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Now we're going to head over to the wonderful Dr. Fry. Many of you know him. He is on the front lines, literally, at Renown Medical Center. So Dr. Fry, give us an update. Tell us what you're seeing. You know, give us the background right now in the hospitals.
Thanks, Mayor Shivi. So we are actually seeing what is reflected in the data that Jeremy just put up on the board. We are happy to report that there is a definitive downward trending of hospitalizations. We have much better ICU availability in the region than we did even 2-3 weeks ago. So all very positive indicators. I think that our community is really rallying, coming together, and doing the masks much better than we were 2 months ago, I think. And that's probably made the most impact, is I think the community awareness that the COVID risk meter, this group, and so many other groups have been putting out the message to keep on it, keep the pedal to the metal. So specifically with Renown, we have a lower utilization of the alternative care site. We were hovering around 40 patients in that first floor of the garage, and now we're down to 20. And we also have an additional 25 people that are at home on home oxygenation and monitoring. We have set up essentially one of the most innovative approaches to COVID care in the country with a remote monitoring program where we use wearables, connections to the internet, and virtual visits daily to ensure very good support and understanding whether folks are doing well or declining and we need to bring them back into the system. So happy to report that's going very well. And we have the ability, the bandwidth, if you will, to ramp that program up considerably, as well as, of course, the ACS, the garage capability is numerous, voluminous. And we never want to, go down that dark path. But if we have to, we certainly have the capability to hospitalize large numbers of people. And so I would say, reaching out to my colleagues at other institutions, I'm getting reports back that they are seeing very similar trends at Northern Nevada and at St. Mary's. So we're all, I think, we have hope mixed in with just the reality that vaccine rollout is, a bit lackluster nationally, if not locally. And I think that everybody is changing their approach as fast as they can to vaccinate larger numbers of people over the age of 75 more immediately. And I think that's a great thing that our public health officials have decided to do. We really need to vaccinate the highest risk people the fastest. And I'm hearing that that's going to be quite possible with the new construct and approach. So I am cautiously optimistic, Mayor, that we are heading in the right direction, that we have a good message out to the community, and we are still in the ER, open and ready, and have plenty of availability for folks that have need for our services. So with that, I'll pass it back.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, I think that's very good news. So I am optimistic as well. One of the questions I did have is that what about some of the spikes in when we talk about the new year, the holiday, people were gathering? Do you think that we could see that happening, or where do you think we're at with that?
It's a great question. And we anticipated that if we were going to see a spike from the New Year's holiday specifically, we probably would have seen it in the last couple of days. And, it's not to say that it's not going to come in a delayed fashion, but I think the odds are much less now that it will come. And again, I think that lends to cautious optimism.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. That's good to know. And one more thing I wanted to ask you, because I've had people ask me this, the antibody infusion, how would someone sort of qualify for that?
Yeah, another great question. So, for lack of better pronunciation, I call it Bam Bam therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is for folks that are higher risk that don't require hospitalization. So if you do get COVID, so you have to be a confirmed positive case and not require hospitalization. And there's a few other things regarding, check boxes that the manufacturer, Eli Lilly, or yes, it's a Lilly product, demands, but they can be infused at a number of infusion centers around town that have contracted with either the manufacturer or the local health system. Renown Infusion Center does them. So providers in the area can recognize their higher risk patients that have now tested positive for COVID, don't need hospitalization, but are struggling, and can send them to an infusion center for that infusion. But there are very strict criteria on who qualifies.
Okay. And just curious, are there statistics on that? How successful if you receive that treatment?
Yeah, unfortunately, the initial data on that therapy is not so great. The power of the study, meaning the number of people that were enrolled, which can then give us a much better picture mathematically of what benefit the therapy may have. I believe the study was underpowered by the manufacturer. It was rolled out fairly quickly so that in case it provided significant benefit, it would get out there in the hands of the people that could use it. I think we're going to have to do a retrospective analysis of those that have received it to really understand whether there is a good benefit, but we're not showing any significant harm. So I think the data suggests that go ahead and use it in that subset of patients, but with the caveat that it may not give any benefit, but it's not going to probably substantially harm anybody either.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, John, I'm going to send it back to you. We can take any questions.
All right, sounds good. We'll get rolling. And Cynthia in channel 2, you're up first.
Awesome, thanks. Sorry. This question is for Dr. Frey. Going back to the unique approach to COVID care and like going home, I was wondering, how do you guys determine that, or do you have to sign up for that, or does the doctor say, you know what, I think you could go home, here's your new set of rules, or how does that look? And can you explain a little bit more about what it is?
Yes, thank you, Cynthia. So, yeah, we developed this program back in March and April, believing at the time that we would be overwhelmed by late spring. And so we have had some time since that surge was kind of a light surge, as you remember, into late spring, early summer. We had some time to really refine the criteria. So we have inclusion criteria for that program. And the vast majority of people that have got on that program have been admitted through the ER, spend some time in the hospital so we understand what their disease trajectory is. They often get moved to the alternative care site as a staging area to further observe them for a few days to, again, understand trend lines. And if they still require oxygen, but are otherwise showing signs of improvement and a good trajectory, those are the folks that we've been placing on to the remote monitoring program, essentially a home hospital program, and quite successfully. So we have had very few what we call bounce backs to the hospital as a result of people having a sudden change, even after going home, requiring more oxygen or additional services only provided in the hospital. So happy to report the program is working. We have scalability of that program. We actually have a total of 500 of these Massimo wearable products. It's actually a pretty fancy, it kind of looks like a Apple Watch with a pulse oximeter on it as well. That goes through the home network for the patient directly into Renown for monitoring at our RTOC, which is our Renown Transfer and Operations Center. So we have all 25 of those people having vital signs constantly fed into our system to understand who's doing well and who may be in decline.
Any follow-up there, Cynthia?
No, that was great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. We'll move on to Colo. And as we said before, it was Mike, yeah?
I am here. Hey, guys. For Dr. Fry, I guess with this 30-day extension, and maybe Dr. Smith as well, is there hope that when we get to the end of that, we could be in a really good position? And is there, I mean, I hate to ask, but do you feel like maybe the heaviest lifting is behind us? I don't want people to get complacent, but are we in a position to say that right now?
Well, I can take that first, Jeremy, and then pass it to you. So, you know, I think the governor has a whole state to look at. It would be my first comment. And the Las Vegas data, unfortunately, is not as good as our data up here in Washoe County currently. So we're seeing trends down in hospitalization and better ICU and regular bed capacity up here. Down there is a different story. They're seeing still an average of around 1,500 new cases a day in the Clark County region. So the governor may be challenged to change things significantly if they don't change in Las Vegas. Jeremy, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you. My thought is just that from what I've seen, looking historically at the data, you know, we tend to go up and then go down and then sort of come back up again. There's a bit of a cyclical nature. And even if we're heading down generally, that doesn't mean we're not going to go back up before we go down again. So I feel like, you know, it's still a wait and see kind of scenario. And if we have several weeks where we're in the orange, I'm going to be able to be a lot more confident about this, but we're just now getting there. So I think it's a little premature to think we're completely out of the woods.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, good stuff. We'll go to Zban next.
Sorry, my question's not directly related to the COVID threat meter, but since I have Dr. Frey on here now, are you seeing any, youth, any increase in youth with mental crises into the emergency rooms? Is that something that you're seeing? Is the mental health of children rising to the level of needing emergency care?
It's a sad reality of this pandemic that we have so many children affected adversely, mentally challenged to get through this with parents that are struggling with economic harsh realities, whether it be on the verge of eviction, or maybe they are living in their car. We have a number of youths in the Reno area that unfortunately are living in a car. And I think it's going to continue until we emerge economically and lift some folks back from the street into decent housing, into the job market again. But yes, we are seeing an unfortunate, more than an uptick. It's a considerable number of people that come in overwhelmed, and children that are overwhelmed with mostly a lot of anxiety and depression and PTSD over an event that a child just simply can't wrap their head around.
Thanks so much. I'd love to follow up with you on some of that, to really dive into that a little more at some point.
All right, sounds good. We'll move to Jaden.
I have no questions. Thank you.
All right, well, this may be a world record for our shortest threat meter media availability. Anybody else have any other follow-ups or any other comments?
John, can I just throw something out there for our reporters? One of the things is, I'm sure you saw that we are going to get another round of funding for rental assistance. And so I would just ask that maybe some of you think about doing stories with the Reno Housing Authority, because there still is funding there for families that are struggling. They could be very close to eviction, or there's just certain different scenarios that they could qualify. So just something to maybe put on your radar, so that we can help get the word out there to get some of this funding into more hands of people that really need it. And we're specializing too now in crisis relocation. And so there's some really good work happening. So I would just encourage you guys, for future stories, if you don't have one, that might be a really good way to message to the community that there's still funding out there.
Good stuff. And if you guys, go ahead, Mayor.
Oh, I was just going to say, and if you guys want, if you don't know Amy, the director over there at the Housing Authority, her number, if you want to reach out to her and ask her questions, how much funding is left, what's their criteria, what about this next round of funding, when is that coming? I think it's really soon.
All right,
Awesome,
good
thank
stuff
you.
there.
Thank you, Mayor.
Wonderful.
Thanks, you
Thanks,
guys.
folks. Yeah, if anyone again needs copy of this, just let me know. We've got the digital version recorded. Yeah, anything else, Mayor? Sounded like you may have something there.
No, I'm just trying to think. I mean, there's just a lot going on, obviously, right now.
Mayor, may I interject briefly?
Yeah, please do.
So since we have the right people on the call, that, by the way, thank you all for getting the message out regarding the COVID risk meter. I think it's been very helpful for the community. Mayor Sheevy knows my passion around mental health in this community, and I think that we need to keep it at the forefront of our discussion at the forefront of our requests of our legislators, especially as we have budget cuts that are fairly deep into services that our most vulnerable are relying upon. And my concern especially goes to the children that need behavioral health services. We're already so strapped for services and running very, very thin. And I think if the trend continues, those services are going to be easily overwhelmed. So we may need a special request from our community to Carson City to make sure that we don't have a lot of troubled youths, suffering in the shadows.
And Siobhan, I'm glad you mentioned that, and because I know you're always watching out for mental health of children. And remember, I just want to remind everyone that Hopeful Cities is out there, hopefulcities.org. And that's our mental health initiative. There's some really great things for children, free workbooks. They're excellent. And it's just great for children, especially if they're at home or with parents or with educators, that they have access to all of those resources and those tools. And remember, we just launched Talkspace. I know the first rollout was, I think, for first responders, and now I believe, John, if I'm correct, we just rolled out the link for everyone to get free therapy for a year through Talkspace. And we're also
Yes,
working
indeed.
with our local providers, our therapists, to build a really robust system to be able to get access to people that need therapy. And so it's a really, really good initiative. So that's another really good story. Hopefulcities.org. Go check that out.
And as far as Talkspace goes, I just put the link that can be provided to any resident. Put that in the chat as well for folks.
Okay, great.
One of the things we learned and why I think Talkspace is such a great opportunity for our community, we didn't know this until the pandemic showed us that a lot of patients with behavioral health issues, actually, they don't want to do an in-person visit. So the fact that COVID hit and they couldn't do an in-person visit was a benefit for them. And they didn't want to do a virtual iPad type visit either. They actually prefer to talk on the phone. So this is 70% of people, almost 3/4 of people want to have a phone only behavioral health visit. So this is a great opportunity for our community.
And we're seeing that with our youth populations. They're really used to having the mobile phone and the text, the accessibility. And then what we've also seen is that it's really helpful that there's sort of that identity, anonymity, that where they can really feel comfortable. I mean, I know I was, when I reached out, it was nice that they didn't know that, I was a mayor. So it was really nice. I felt comfortable being really open and honest. And I think it's something to really understand that this is it's such an important conversation, but also to recognize it's okay to not be okay. And so I do believe that in our community, we're talking about mental health so much more. But Dr. Fry, I'm glad you brought that up. I think obviously one of my biggest concerns at the legislative session is some of the mental health funding that could drastically be cut. And so I think, we're in for some pretty big challenges when it comes to mental health, especially, I mean, this pandemic has just exacerbated it on so many levels. So we gotta watch that coming into the session for sure.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for your time. And as always, any other follow-ups, just let Matt or I know on the media line. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Goodbye,
Thanks, all.
everyone. Stay safe, please. Thanks
Thank you.
for
Bye.
getting all the information out there. Really appreciate it.